What's up, Mystery Tackle Box? Brian Latimer here, and guess what? You see the leaves on the trees? You feel that in the, I guess you can't actually feel it in the air, but it's springtime. Springtime. No more cold, no more snow. Now, I know some of you guys live in a different part of the country, and maybe it's snowing. I feel sorry for you, because here in South Carolina, I ain't got no snow. I ain't got no cold, I ain't got no frost, no ice, none of that foolishness. Springtime. You hear the birds singing? Let me turn my engine off so you can hear the birds singing. All right, so maybe you don't hear the birds singing, but listen, the birds are singing whether you hear them or not. Feels good out here, and guess what? The bass are biting. They are biting, my friend. Everything will catch a bass. So what we got to try to do as fishermen, we got to try to narrow that down, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video today. If you've got your mystery tackle box, for you guys that have been subscribed for quite some time now, you're starting to develop a pretty big inventory of tackle, right? Well, it can be a little confusing to know what to throw, when to throw it, how to throw it, what you should be throwing during different times of the year. I'm just gonna show you what's the best lures to use in your mystery tackle box right now during the springtime of the year. There's pretty much everything in the world that you can catch inside this box. Now, as I mentioned when I first started out this video, right now, there's probably nothing in this box that you couldn't catch a fish on if you gave it enough time. But what we gotta do is, we don't have time. Most of the time when you ease out fishing, you've got 3-4 hours, 5 hours to fish, and you can't just go through everything that you're gonna get in this box. So what we're gonna start doing is I'm gonna break down some of these baits in this box, and then we're gonna talk about what's best to use when you go fishing with your mystery tackle box. All right, so if you guys have followed me quite some time, you know that I like to use crankbaits. Now, one of the crankbaits that I got in this particular box is the 𝗙𝗶𝗶𝗶. Guaranteed this is a bait that you can catch them. You know, right now we're in the springtime of the year. We have some fish that are spawning. We have some that are setting up to spawn. There's probably no post-spawn fish at this point. Water temperature is somewhere between 60 to 65 degrees, just depending on what area of the lake you're in right now. So anytime that I'm targeting fish that I feel like are feeding, typically during the pre-spawn of the year, if you have some fish that are setting up to spawn, they're feeding. They're out chasing shad, they're out chasing minnows, or whatever the prey fish is in your body of water. And there's nothing better to imitate that particular species or that particular prey fish than a crankbait. This is the 𝗙𝗶𝗶𝗶 right here. Now, I like this guy because it gets down to the perfect depth range. This is a clear body of water I'm fishing right here. The water clarity is going to be anywhere from stained, if I go back in the creeks, to very clear if I work my way south or towards the dam. And anywhere in between there, you're gonna have sort of like a mix of stained, not really clear water, but not really muddy water. And that's where I'm gonna throw this little 𝗙𝗶𝗶𝗶 right here. This guy gets somewhere between 6 and 8 foot deep, so it'll get down there and reach a lot of that structure that the fish should be hanging around. I'll fish it around some of the points. I'll fish it around like some of the bank transitions, where it transitions from clay to sand, or from clay to like pebble rock. Anytime I see any rock, I'm going to throw the 𝗙𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶. So we're going to tie this guy on today and see if it works as well. Now let's talk about soft plastics. Everybody likes to throw soft plastics. In this month's box, I've got some copper truce finesse TRDs. You already know what this is. You know about the Ned rig, and you know how many fish this doggone bait catches. So, you know, I wouldn't dare come to a spotted bass fishery in March or April or May and not have a finesse TRD tied on and sitting on my deck ready to go. Copper truce. I'll show you how to rig this guy, because it can be a little tricky to learn how to put this guy on the hook with Elastec. You guys are familiar with how this stuff is nice and stretchy and elasticy and all of that stuff, but that guy right there, I can guarantee you we can pull up on any rocky point on this lake, and guarantee you we're going to catch a fish on the good old finesse TRD today. Now, you know it's good to catch this time of year. You know, you can catch a lot of numbers, but catching those bigger bass is always a little bit of a struggle, right? So, you know, we're gonna throw that finesse TRD, but another bait that I got out here, there's nothing, see, like, I'm already starting to dive into a bunch of baits that you guys can catch fish on because it's springtime, and like bass bite in springtime, they bite everything because they're set up on a lot of stuff that you can catch fish on. But sometimes I want to catch those little bit bigger spotted bass. I want to fish a little bit deeper. I want a little bit bigger profile. So now I've got this guy. This is the big TRD. This is a 5-inch stick bait, right? And we're going to use this guy the same place that we use the finesse TRD, but maybe I want to fish down a little deeper. Instead of when I'm fishing the Ned rig or the finesse TRD, when I'm fishing it maybe let's say 6-8 foot deep, on some of these points when I want to get out of there in 12, 15, 20 foot deep, that's when I'm going to tie on this guy. This is the big TRD. This particular color is called green pumpkin goby. It's green pumpkin with a little purple flake in it. And I tied that on a 1/5 ounce Z-Man Power Finesse Shrooms head. So we're gonna tie him on when we need to fish a little deeper out on some of these points. And that'll probably just about cover our soft plastics that we're gonna catch fish on today. Let's look at some of the hard baits that we're gonna fish today. As I mentioned, springtime of the year. Fish are biting just about everything in your tackle box. I've got 2 hard baits that I got in my mystery tackle box that I'm pretty sure, without a doubt, we can catch some fish on today. Now, one of them I'm sure you're familiar with. This is a jerk bait. And just as the name implies, you throw this bait out, throw it over some perceived structure, rocky points. It can be stumps. It can be bank transitions. Honestly, it can be a drop. You don't want to always contact the bottom with a jerk bait. This is one of those baits where you fish for suspended fish with. And I know for a fact there's going to be some fish out feeding, looking to stock up for the spawn. Because when bass actually spawn, they don't really do a lot of feeding. Their sole purpose is just to protect the nest and their eggs where they're laying their spawn at. Now, we've got fish right now that are spawning, and there's some that are moving up to spawn, doing what we call pre-spawning. Okay, obviously before they actually lay their eggs. And before they do that, they eat a lot. They're chasing shad. They're eating every single prey fish that gets in their way right now. This is the perfect bait to catch those fish on. This is a KVD. This particular bait is a KVD jerk shad here, or jerk bait right here. So we're gonna throw this guy, gonna throw him on a 10-pound test line on a little jerk bait rod, and I promise you we're gonna catch a few fish on this guy fishing it around points. Maybe we'll see a little surface activity today possibly, but the old jerk bait definitely catches them this time of year, so we're gonna throw him out there today too. The other hard bait that we're gonna use, I've already taken this guy out of the package because it's just, you know, when it comes to swim baits, everybody gets excited, right? This is the 𝗦liche𝗰𝗶𝗹 baby bull shad, and this color right here is called baby bluegill. Actually, I think it's just called bluegill, but it'd be a whole lot more cool if it was baby bluegill. Green back on this guy with a little silver metallic belly on it. Pretty sure it's gonna catch fish because it looks exactly like what fish are eating here. This particular lake, the prey fish is actually blueback herring. Even though we call them blueback herring, at certain times of the year, the blueback herring can have different hues of colors to them, and sometimes they do have this green hue over the back of them, so it matches the prey fish exactly like what it looks like, even though this color is called bluegill, but it's a really good blueback herring imitator as well. So we're gonna throw the little baby bull shad around because that's just a little morsel of greatness right there. These guys have very good detail in them. You see even the tail on them, these guys look exactly like what fish are feeding on. So we're gonna throw these guys on bank transitions, rocky points, drop-offs. If we happen to see some surface activity where fish are actually busting on shad, the little baby bull shad is gonna get in there and do his thing. All right, so now let's get out some rods that we can actually push these baits on. So we'll go over the setups that I actually like to use for these particular baits as well. I've got a particular rod and reel that I really prefer on each setup, and we'll talk a little bit about that so you guys know exactly the setups you should be using on these rods and reels. Now, like I mentioned, there's probably nothing in any of your mystery tackle boxes that you couldn't catch a fish on right now, but you got to kind of narrow that thing down, because it's not like you can go out and fish 60 baits in one fishing trip on the lake. So let me show you what we got tied on. Let's do a little recap here. So I have my baby bull shad tied on. All right, I got him tied on the fish around the points. I also have soft plastics wise, I've got a finesse TRD. Isn't that kind of juicy, dude? That looks like, we ought to call that like lemonade. It's called 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹, but we ought to call that like bionic lemonade or something. That thing looks tasty. TRD, finesse TRD, and I also have my jerk bait tied on. That's a KVD jerk bait that I got in the mystery tackle box. And as well as when we want to fish out a little deeper, I got the big TRD tied on. So basically what we have here is we've got something to cover just about every depth of the water column. If I want to fish up high, fish, you know, on top on these points, because these fish are either going to be suspended or on the bottom on these points. If we want to fish somewhere in the 1 to 4 foot range, I got a bait for it. If I need to fish down to 10 to 12 foot range, I got a bait for it. So now that we've got all the baits, we're here at the lake, the birds are chirping, you're ready to watch me catch a bass, I'm ready to catch a bass. We might as well get out here on the lake and see what's out here to be caught today. Ooh, going on the jerk bait. Oh, we come off right here at the boat. There's one right there. There's the first bite. Big TRD. See, you gotta play the conditions, dude. That's a big deal this time of year. Of course, they'll hit everything when the conditions are just right. But right now, I see a few more fish under that fish. There was a lot more with him. Nice little spotted bass right there on the big TRD. Green pumpkin goby. That's just a 1/5 ounce little finesse shrooms head there. That's a pretty decent bass for right now. So, you know, with spotted bass in general, you actually have to go through your fish. You know, this is about a pound and a half guy here, but you know what you have to do, you're going to catch a lot of numbers when you're talking about fishing for spotted bass. You got to just keep catching them, keep catching them. You'll catch 1 pounder, 1 pounder, 1 pounder, and then boom, a 3.5. I've seen that a lot the last few weeks when I've been out here fishing. You catch a lot of little ones, little ones. You got to remember, with spotted bass, the population of fish is just much greater. There's a lot more spotted bass than there are largemouth. A lot more opportunities to get bit. So when you're out here and you're catching those, you know, 1.5 pound, 1.75 pound fish, keep hitting, keep swinging, keep swinging. The more times you're at bat, the more times you're swinging it, the better your opportunities are at catching bigger fish. So we're gonna just keep catching as many as we can. We've got one down. I'm gonna show you that all these baits on the deck today probably can catch a few fish. Get this little dude back. Enjoy your springtime, homie. There's a good one right there. Let's see what we got him on the big TRD again. Just throwing it out on these points and just dragging it. That's a little bit bigger. A little bit better fish right there. A little bit better fish. Yeah, that's a better one right there. That's a good one right there. Really good spotted bass. Big TRD in his mouth. I think it'll catch him just about anywhere. As long as it's calm today, that's probably going to be the best bait to use, just because when it's calm, they're just not really active, man. So you got to throw something that'll get down there to them and kind of finesse them into biting. There's a little guy on the TRD. It's throwing the 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹 TRD that time. It's fishing a little sandy beach here. You see it's a swim area back there. 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹 getting it done. 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹. So you can see that's what we call that guy on there. It's 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹 TRD. Another spotted bass on a little flat here. This is just like a little sandy flat. Again, another bank transition. It's all about the change, folks. All about the change. All about the transition, folks. Like, it doesn't matter what you're fishing. Grass, bushes, points, rocks, sand. It's always where that structure changes from one to another. An edge. trees, 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 the edge, there's no edge. Bottom, 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 it gets a little deeper. It's always a transition. Never forget that. That makes a big body of water like this one, this 30,000 acres, become very small very quickly. It allows you to target in on places where you can catch fish. There's one. That's a little bit better one there, guys. A little bit better fish that time. Oh, TRD just catches them, bro. That's a lot better one. That's one of them old big. LFG would call it a Mondo spotted bass. I don't think he fools with many spotted bass, but if he did, this would be an LFG one right here. Yeah, that's the kind you want. That's the kind you want right there. That's a good one. Look at that guy. Whoa. Look at that guy. He's gonna get me on my knees here. This guy's gonna get me on my knees here. Wow, look at that thing, man. Don't think little baits won't catch big fish. Look at this thing. Huh? He's got that thing. Oh. Let me show you what spotted bass fishing. This is why I love spotted bass fishing right here. It's a little bit too much line. He's buckled good. Look at that meat, dude. Look at that. Is that meat or what? Dude. Now that is a good one. Coppertruce TRD in his mouth. That is going to be a close to, dude, that fish is almost a 4-pounder, 4-pound spotted bass. Now, something I hear you guys talk about all the time when you're talking about TRDs is the fact that the finesse shrooms hook maybe bends out with a big fish. All right, so this is a finesse shrooms hook, had him pegged, light wire hook. This is a finesse technique, 4-pound spotted bass. Nothing fights harder than a spotted bass. And that kept him pegged, didn't bend out or anything. So trust me, the finesse shrooms, plenty big enough hook for him. Holy smokes, that's a good one. That is a good one. That makes me want to throw a TRD all day long right there. All right, guys, so it's time for a little bit of a transition here. We've caught some spotted bass this morning, but you know, I'm really interested in catching a little bit bigger fish. You can, you know, it's pretty simple to throw that Ned rig around, the finesse TRD and the big TRD around on any of those points. But I'm feeling like catching a big largemouth today. So I think the good move to do that is to move to where largemouth live. Keep in mind the habitat that the fish actually lives in when you're trying to target a particular species. Doesn't matter if it's smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass, or whatever the species of fish is on your body of water. Here on this body of the water, I have largemouth bass and I have spotted bass that I can fish for. The spotted bass live down in the clear water, the big open areas of the lake. The bulk of the population of largemouth bass live towards the river where there's more stained water, wood structure, and rock structure. So I'm feeling like changing up and going down here, or going up here, up the river where there's more stained water. It's probably going to be a little bit muddy because we've had quite a bit of rain. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to swap it up a little bit. I'm going to fish a spinnerbait a little bit. Now, here's something I did. I did kind of modify this spinnerbait a little bit. This is a Z-Man sling blades, and what I'm actually doing is I'm taking this guy off. I'll show you one that I've already rigged up, and I made it a double Colorado. It came in the pack with a willow leaf blade on it, but what I want to do, since it's so muddy up here today, I want to switch it to a Colorado blade because a Colorado blade has more thump. If you look at the blade combination on both of these, you can see the willow leaf in this particular one right here. Willow leaf is great for clear water when you want to move the bait a lot faster or keep it down. Since the water is muddy up here, upriver, I'm going to be using the bait a lot slower. I'm going to be wanting to move more water. You can see this is a round blade that has more thump to it. Those fish can't actually see the bait up here in this muddy water, but what they're going to do is they're going to feel for it. And this is more like a big fan. It just has that big whoop, 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 whoop. When you're reeling it back to the boat, you can actually see the rod tip just doop, 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 moving around. That's the difference between a willow leaf and a Colorado bladed spinnerbait. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna move up here, fish in the stained water. It's gonna be a lot dirtier. We're gonna be fishing totally different. We're gonna be fishing more target oriented, making short pitches, short cast towards wood structure and towards the bank. Who knows, these fish could be spawning up here even though the water is muddy, but the idea behind this is we're going to be doing a lot more precise fishing when we start fishing the spinnerbait around wood cover up here in the river. Oh, that's a big one. Oh man, another spotted bass. No, he hit it like he was 17 pounds, y'all. That fish hit that spinnerbait so hard. You would have thought he was 44 pounds with a brother that was about 22 pounds. Jeez, don't do that to me again, buddy. Let's throw the spinnerbait in the muddy water here. Now I'm going to show you guys how I like to retrieve my baits. This is a 3/4 ounce Z-Man sling blade spinnerbait. And basically what I'm doing, this is very simple fishing. You'll notice that the water is a lot muddier than what we were fishing at earlier. The visibility is only just a few inches right here. Now, I came up here for 2 reasons. Number one, you can only catch so many on a Ned rig. You guys have seen plenty of fish caught on a Ned rig the last 2 years, I'm sure. But there's still a lot of mystery on how to fish muddy water. You notice when I was up there fishing in the clear water, there was boats everywhere, but there's not as many people fishing up here in this muddy water. Here's a really good look at what I'm trying to fish here. Notice my boat position, how I'm really close to the bank right in here. That's on purpose. These fish, when the water's muddy like that, they're not gonna be out here in 7-8 foot of water. They're gonna be in there in that 1 to 3 foot zone. So I don't even waste my time bringing my bait through that part of the water column, because I know there's 2 things. They're going to be beside a rock, beside a lay down. You see I got a lay down coming up here in front of me, and I'm just taking my time picking away at the bank structure as it comes along the bank. I'm actually just flipping this spinnerbait, making very short casts because everything's target oriented. I'm not trying to cover everything in the water column like I am when the water's clear. I'm just flipping that spinnerbait right at these visual targets and just bringing it back really slow rolling it back to the bank. Dude, crash this spinnerbait. Spotted bass. How many times do you catch? I come up here in the river to try to catch largemouth on a spinnerbait, and I catch spotted bass in the river in muddy water. How does that happen? This time of the year, folks, you can catch fish so many different ways. A spinnerbait in muddy water. It's just the time to be fishing. Springtime, everything bites. As you can see, they bite a spinnerbait, they bite a Ned rig, they'll bite a jerkbait. It's probably nothing that you're gonna get in your mystery tackle box that's not gonna work this time of the year. So get out there, go fishing. It doesn't matter. Stained, muddy, clear water, it doesn't matter. There's so many fish to be caught. It's just an awesome time of year to be fishing right now. Make sure you subscribe to Mystery Tackle Box if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing more talk-throughs on baits that I get through Mystery Tackle Box and shopcarls.com. I want to go catch some more fish. This is too much fun.